Which, what a night, bro. Got drunk with the boys, whored it up, met a 10-foot tall proto-human. You know, you know what I'm saying? Fuck yeah, dude.
That'd be
that's
crazy.
A night, right?
That's a crazy night.
Kind of about how I met you. You know what I'm saying? I was drunk and whoring around, and then I met this big bastard Connor. In at culinary school.
I strolled in.
You know, there it is.
As a disclaimer, we at Two Orks, One Squig would like to stress the importance of freedom of opinion, freedom of speech, the crying of hate, and the non-usage of slang terms of slander in all of its forms to oppress or hinder anyone's development or progress. Understand that this is a fictional timeline based on fictional characters in a fictional universe doing fictional things. Although there are connections to humanity and humanity's beliefs are paramount to understanding the ins and outs of this universe, this is a work of fiction told through a creative lens, not indicative of our own beliefs or grievances. Remember to have fun and spread the word of our podcast to everyone curious about Warhammer 40k or the Horus Heresy. Now let's get into the episode.
Welcome back, dude.
Yeah.
Welcome back to episode 2 now?
We are episode 2, technically 3.
Episode 2, technically 3, but 2, right? Because we did an episode 0, which was 1, but then, anyways, yeah. Episode 3, just kidding. Episode 2. Tonight we're going to be covering the first 5 short stories that appear in chronological order.
Mm-hmm.
So that is, in order, Last Church,
Mm-hmm.
Lupus Daemonis,
Mm-hmm.
Canticle,
Mm-hmm.
Sinew of War,
Mm-hmm.
Mercy of the Dragon.
Right.
Okay? So that is in order. Last Church, Lupus Daemonis, Canticle, Sinew of War, Mercy of the Dragon. Okay?
Yes.
They all take place between the 700s of M30 and like 835 of M30.
Okay.
So
pretty odd number to start like.
Well, it's 130 years. Okay,
right.
About 135 years is the timeline that we're looking at. But the first story is the furthest out, so it's in the 700s. Everything after that is like 735, 8, to 800, and then a little bit afterwards.
Okay.
Everything we're going to be talking about tonight, all the stories tonight are written, except for one of them, which is Mercy of the Dragon. All of them are written without you knowing who the main character is until a certain point in the story. These aren't books. These are short stories, of course. So there are 30 pages or less kind of stories, right? That doesn't mean they were any less ridiculous to cover, but this episode, just before we even started anything, is like 22, 23 hours worth of work went into just getting to this point so we could record, and then I'm going to have to cut it down and stuff. So it's a lot of work, but I'm excited about it. I love doing it. This is kind of like the only other thing besides work right now that's working out for me, So that's what I got. And if this doesn't ever get anywhere, at least it's just something we can look back on.
Yeah. So
starting off with the first book. Episode 0, Who He Is and What We Does. Episode 1, Valdor, Birth of the Imperium. Episode 2, first 5 short stories.
Gotcha.
As I've stated before, this episode's going to cover the first 5 short stories in that order. I'm not going to go as in-depth as I did for Valdor, because some of the stuff you're going to kind of like pick up along the way here, and then some of it is like really need to know information. So whereas with Valdor, I was looking at it every couple sentences, I would write something. Here, it's like I could get through a whole page and kind of distill down a little bit of information, maybe write 2 or 3 things instead of just stopping at every couple sentences. But are you ready for this, dude?
I'm ready.
Okay, so first story of the night is called Last Church. All right. It was written by Chris Raitt and published in April 2009 in the Tales of Heresy anthology series. What I mean by anthology series, do you know what I mean?
Not entirely.
So an anthology series is a cluster of short stories. So when you buy Tales of Heresy, it comes with like a dozen stories in it. Otherwise, they'd be too small to just sell as one-offs. On Audible, you can buy them as one-offs. It's a little bit more expensive if you do it that way. A hell of a lot more expensive if you do it that way. But in the Tales of Heresy anthology, this is... It's up there for sure. I think it's like story number 3, maybe, or maybe even 6. So it was published in April 2009 in the Tales of Heresy anthology book, and then narrated on Audible by the legendary Jonathan Keeble. Okay, Jonathan Keeble, one of my favorite narrators on Audible. He just sounds like Warhammer to me, especially because of the Horus Heresy series and all of the books.
He's got that deep toned voice.
No, it's just the way he pronounces things and the way he says things and the way he embodies characters is what most of these books are going to be based off of for me. I'm going to mispronounce stuff. I'm going to missay things, but the reality is, right, it comes from me listening to these as well as reading them. I'm not looking up 50 other articles or 50 other things just on the pronunciations. If you have a problem with how I pronounce things, make your own podcast, right? Other than that, back to Last Church, this book is considered a smash hit with the fan base. This is a beloved short story, and people recall it fondly as one of the greatest short stories in the Horus Heresy series. It's not controversial in the traditional sense, but it did in fact split the fan base when thinking about perception of this story. So there are 2 trains of thought around this story. It can either be seen as condemning the Emperor's actions before the Great Crusade, or it can be seen as like the folly of excess faith and reason. There's one camp where people say like, oh, this story is about how crazy the Emperor is. And then there's some that say, no, this is the story about how crazy religion is, right? That's as far as the controversy goes with this. That's neither here nor there to me. I love this story. It's great. In the timeline, this book takes place in late 700s of M30, directly before the launch of the Great Crusade. So this is as close to being near the end of Valdor as it can possibly be. So you saw in Valdor, Birth of the Imperium, Terra was almost in compliance of complete conquer. This shows Terra past that stage. So it's like, years past that. It could even be as far, I believe, as 50 years past that. There are some wars that are brought up in this, one specifically that is said to have taken place 50 years ago, which would have been during the end of Valdor, Birth of the Imperium. So we're looking at the late 700s of M30. My favorite quote from this book, because we got a quote for every book, right? It's a story. Sorry, my favorite quote from this story, because we have a quote from every story or book, is true art needs no divine explanation. It is just art. Now, there's actually 2 quotes, since there's 2 camps of people that like this book. I have a quote for both sides here. So first quote, true art needs no divine explanation. It is just art. This is spoken in the story by a stranger named Revelation. The second quote is, what makes faith so powerful is that it requires no proof. This is Uriah the priest. Okay? So these are 2 people you will meet in this story, 2 of the only people you'll meet in this story, and they go on a back and forth here. All right? So the book starts at a place called the Church of the Lightning Stone. We see the priest or pastor of this church sort of ruminating over how it used to be packed in here with people and worshipers, but that it is quiet and more vacant now than it was ever before. As he thinks about recent history when the Thunder Warriors conquered Terra, so we already know the start of this is after the Thunder Warriors conquered Terra.
Right.
And they fought back the tides of Dark Age humanity to unify Terra. Uriah Olathair, who is now named to be the priest, sits alone in his forgotten temple. So we get a timepiece here stating that the Unification Wars took place over 70 years ago, when Uriah was still a young boy. he recalls the Thunder Warriors as, quote, towering brutes who carried swords of caged lightning and were clad in plumed helms and burnished plate, the color of a winter's sunset. Like, truly historic description here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, heroic shit. He tells us of the Emperor's rise and the other warlords and despots that were around. He's risen over them. He says it came out of nowhere. Out of the clamor of wars and gene-bred monsters, the Emperor rose above all and set his plan in motion. That's what he says. So the Emperor just came out of nowhere with the RKO and just took, there's going to be a lot of wrestling references, right? And just took out all of the other despots and stuff, which would have been at the end of the Age of Strife, which would have been at the end of the Dark Age of Technology, which would have been at the end of the Golden Age of Humanity. Mm-hmm. Going backwards, it's Unification Wars, Age of Strife, Dark Age of Technology, Golden Age of Humanity.
Okay.
And then everything below that's kind of like goes up to the present day right now. He sees the Emperor as a necessity to get humanity through the Dark Age of Technology, but it gives him little comfort now with a completely empty church. Because, like, no matter how good the Emperor was, this guy's a priest and no one comes into his church anymore.
Now, is this a church of Christianity or this church for the Emperor?
It's not expressly stated, although I do have an idea of what this church is, at least in my own eyes. I know that it's not. This church is supposed to be a church in Scotland. This is supposed to be Lindisfarne. At least a lot of people in the community think it is. To me, what this church is and how it's described is not there. It's actually somewhere else. It's in Serbia. Okay? We'll get to that here in a second, what I think it is. This is just my headcanon. It's not accurate at all. It's never stated where this place is. It's only stated where Uriah comes from. It's also never stated anywhere specifically what the continent that it was on is called. But I'm choosing to see it as a specific church that I really like to look at pictures of. So we'll get there.
Okay.
The current social outlook on faith and religion are such that most people don't want to be associated with churches or priests out of fear of reprisal, scorn, or outcasting. But these melancholy thoughts are interrupted by a strike of lightning outside. Very foreboding. The church described here is almost described in a stereotypical Orthodox fashion. Unadorned church, but like crazy ceiling. It's got this great etched and painted ceiling, and I don't believe we're ever told where this church is. I read it and listened to it. Mm-hmm. I don't think it says it, but I like to have my headcanon on what it is. In my head, this is the Church of the Holy Apostle in Pustinja, which is in Serbia. Okay. It has a long history as the oldest Orthodox church in Serbia, but also as a resilient piece of history that just to me like really fits the bill here in my head with this story and how open the landscape around also is as far as its central location to some significant battles you hear about in this book. Uriah spends a fair bit of time thinking about a timepiece he is looking at. So like a clock, right? Like a stopwatch. It's described as a stopwatch. Like an old broken pocket watch. It is described. He stole it from an artisan's shop in the mountains of Europa, which, as we talked about before, is just Europe. Mm-hmm. But he remarks that the place is gone now as a casualty of the wars, and he likens it to the church he is in as both being the last of their kind. So he's like, oh, this clock kind of reminds me of this church because this is never going to be made again from that workshop in that town that was lost.
Right.
But as he thinks on this, however, his mind wanders to Gajuare, which is a place, and there was a battle that happened there. But a noise outside of feet moving on sodden ground stirs him from his memory as he turns to see who it is. He's like sort of ruminating over melancholic thoughts, and then all of a sudden he's like, oh, you know. A man in a crimson robe and hood emerges from the dark outside the church and is flanked by a host of figures holding burning brands. At first, Uriah believes them to be, quote, displaced mercenaries looking for plunder. But soon he sees the hooded figure enter alone and reverently closes the door behind him, as if it's like out of respect or recognition of this holy place. He's not just like closing. I mean, he is closing his friends outside. Just the hooded figure steps in, but he does it.
Yeah.
He does it respectfully. You know, he's letting the door close, making sure there's no draft. Uriah greets his new guest and wonders if the man and his friends wish to join in the service. The stranger declines this offer, but what do you think is going on here?
I'm not really sure what this head figure is trying to do. I mean, if he's coming in and leaving his friends outside, I'm assuming that there's a conversation to be had.
Yeah, there's no other descriptors of who they are or what they look like. It's just that they're left outside and this hooded figure steps in. So the stranger here is described as, quote, a remarkably unremarkable face that seems at odds with his martial bearing. So he just total like this guy to Uriah. He doesn't, he's like nondescript. He's like the most dude looking dude.
He's a dude, bro.
Yeah, he's a dude. He's just a dude. And you could imagine him looking however you would think the word dude looks like. That's how it's described. Except that he's got kind of a martial bearing. The stranger says his friends outside would not want to be part of what's going on in here. They are not willing to join the service, saying instead they are quite content without. Okay. But when Uriah quips back, without what? The stranger chuckles and says it is rare to find a kind of man like Uriah with a sense of humor. But again, Uriah asks, my kind. So what really was said was like, your kind of priest. It's rare to find your kind of person, a priest, right? When Uriah asks what kind, the stranger spits out the word priests as if it was a poison coming out of his mouth. So really setting the tone here for what the stranger thinks about this place. Even though he entered respectfully, he does not want to be here, or he thinks very little of this place. So the two go back and forth for a moment or two about their outlook on religious figures. And that's when Uriah begins to feel a faint trace of dangerousness lying beneath the surface of this stranger's exterior. He feels no threat that he will be harmed, but still the danger persists. So he's getting like a bad feeling. Uriah introduces himself as Uriah Olathair, last priest of the Church of the Lightning Stone, and asks the stranger his name. But when they grasp hands to shake, something familiar about the stranger begins to surface, disappearing as he thinks on it. So he's like, wait. Oh, it's gone. The stranger replies that he has no name, but Uriah can call him Revelation. So Uriah thinks this is humorous, as do I, because Revelation has such a dislike for priests, but the stranger says that name suits his purpose. I mean, real ominous stuff, but Revelation wants to know what keeps Uriah here when everyone else has abandoned their faith and church. And Revelation is such a good name because it's the last book in the Bible, right?
Right.
Last church on Terra. It's the closing to religion. Uriah showcases the great fresco here of an artist called Isandula. That's what's on the ceiling. That grand ceiling I was talking about.
Okay.
Her name is Isandula Veroni, and Revelation remarks that it is truly magnificent, but questions if it is divine. Because Uriah is like, Revelation asks, what keeps you here? Everyone else is gone. Uriah is like, I'm guarding these holy things. I mean, look at this holy painting.
Right.
But Revelation remarks that it is remarkable, but is it divine? Uriah gets teary-eyed here about how it makes him feel personally. Revelation sees it as a wondrous work of art that took Isandula Verona the end of her years of life to create, and sees it as understated how beautiful it is, regardless of the fact it has no personal divinity in it, in his point of view. He's like, it's great, but I don't think it's holy or divine. It's just great. The quote about this fresco is, you cannot argue that this is not a work truly inspired by a higher power. That's what Uriah says. You know, he's like, it's great. Yeah, I agree. it's holy. Revelation says, of course I can argue that, right? This is sublime work, whether or not any higher power exists or not. It does not prove the existence of anything. No gods ever created art. And they both fawn over the definition of blasphemy, because Uriah sees it as blasphemy, and Revelation's like, it can't be blasphemy because religion's not a thing.
Okay.
Which is just like
it's a pretty extreme look at it, but okay.
This is how this whole story goes over and over. Okay. Revelation does some world building here, and this really showcases how fucked Earth was after the Dark Age of technology and the Age of Strife, and into the Unity Wars. He asks Uriah if he's seen the great cliff sculptures of the Mariana Canyon. The Mariana Trench is fucking dried up.
Right. Okay. Thought that's what it was, but
He calls it a, quote, 1,000-meter high representation of their kings carved in stone that no weapon could mark or drill. So the Mariana Trench is a Grand Canyon with nothing at the bottom of it. That's how fucked the world is.
Okay. Damn, they ain't no water.
Yeah, like what the fuck happened to the world, dude? It's crazy, right?
Like,
and not only that, it's been dry for long enough that primitive savages have carved like a Mount Rushmore into the side of it.
So that's like what, 2 weeks?
Right? No. At their current age of technology, it would take them like years. Like it would take us, you know. Revelation uses these carvings by godless tribals to showcase that gods and art are not as close together as some would like to poetically showcase with divine intervention, you know? Because if you can call someone a godless savage, then obviously the great things they do can't be attributed to a god, right?
Right.
So they debate this for a time, and Revelation goes on the ideological offensive here by saying that perhaps saying such works of art are divine intervention could instead be human jealousy, claiming that others couldn't possibly do great things without divine intervention. You know, you see somebody who's at a different skill level, and you're like, no way he did that himself. It's just jealousy. That's his argument.
Okay.
They can't do things, so it must have been the gods that helped them become great. That kind of thing. Okay. This makes Uriah change the subject, and he asks Revelation, why are you here? He's getting uncomfortable. What do you think?
Yes.
What do you think Revelation's here for?
I think he's there to seek answers for something.
Maybe.
I don't know what he's trying to seek, but it seems like he's after some type of knowledge.
It could be, you know? Revelation says that this is the last church on Terra, and that Terra will soon be rid of places like it, and no one will need them anyways. He wants a memory of this church before it is gone forever. And Uriah balks at this and asks him to sit. You know, he's like, duh, but also it's not helping my mood. It's harshing my vibe. Uriah produces a vintage bottle of good wine, and he shares it with Revelation. They both remark how amazing the bottle is, and Uriah says his father gave it to him 55 years ago when he was 15. So he's currently 70. However, that's what it says in the book. And then he is also stated in this story to be like 80. So he's in between 70 or 80. His father told him to open it on his wedding night. Revelation assumes he was never married because he's a priest.
Right.
Uriah says he was something of a, quote, devilish rogue back in the day. Dude, bro is a slayer. And of course, Revelation hits him with a devilish rogue who became a priest. Like, for however bad you were, you still became a priest. The way these two play off each other is great. And it's so back and forth in a way that is building the story for you of Uriah without you even knowing it. We know that in like a few short sentences, we have learned so much about Uriah from just them talking to each other.
Yes.
Even though it gives away nothing of Revelation, you find out so much about Uriah from this. Uriah is trying to get a read on Revelation, but he just seems like a plain bro sipping nice wine. Like he's like looking at him again, and he's like, No, he's just a dude. He asks Revelation why he believes this place will be gone soon, and we get some more story here.
Okay.
Revelation asks Uriah if he understands that the Emperor is on a planet-wide crusade to stamp out religion in all of its forms and belief in the supernatural, so like it's only a matter of time. He's like, do you know what's going on outside? Uriah says, I know, but it makes no difference to me. This is a quote. I know, but it makes no difference to me. I believe what I believe, and no amount of hectoring or warmongering despots will alter my beliefs. Giving away how he feels about what the Emperor is doing. He thinks that he's a warmongering despot.
Okay. From his perspective, I can see that.
Yeah. Revelation and Uriah have a back and forth on the concept of faith, and Revelation says that faith is, quote, a willing belief in the unbelievable without proof. To which Uriah responds, and this really is quite a good quote that Uriah responds with. What makes faith believable is that it requires no proof. That's one of our quotes, by the way.
Yes.
This book is really about the idea of what humanity needs or what it believes in. So there's the two arguments here. Revelation saying that humanity needs to move on, and it does because it's been stagnant.
Mm-hmm.
But the belief and things is what made people human in Uriah's perspective. So that's really what this story is about.
Okay.
Revelation says that, quote, politics has slain thousands, yes, but religion slays millions.
I mean, he's not wrong.
Which really gets Uriah insulted and worked up. Of course it would. Telling Revelation that if that's all he's here for, he can just go. You can always leave. Revelation relents and apologizes for being discourteous. He's like, I'm not trying to work you up. He asks Uriah to show him around the church and teach him about it since it's so important to him. Uriah shows us the lightning stone. It is described as, quote, an area behind the altar that was curtained off from the rest of the church by a rich emerald drape. It's like Wizard of Oz style. There's this huge emerald tapestry. He pulled a cord and the drape slid aside to reveal a high vaulted chamber of pale stone in which stood a tall megalith which rose from the center of a circular pit in the ground. So he pulls this thing aside, and they're like chest height to this statue, this megalith, which is just built into like a well almost in the center of the church and goes up into the ceiling. The stone was napped like flint and had a distinctive glassy and metallic texture to its surface. The mighty stone was around 6 meters tall and tapered towards the top, such that it resembled an enormous spear tip. So it's like,
that's crazy.
Yeah. So what it looks like is kind of like Washington Monument. It's just big, pointy, and it's napped like flint. Okay. Patches of wiry, rust-colored bracken clustered at its base. So regardless of how it is, it's still got kind of like some grime around the bottom, but the bottom is in a pit, so duh. Uriah is proud of it, buddy. I mean, he is like, big reveal, like he's like, ta-da.
Behold,
right,
my stuff.
My rock, right?
Yeah.
Revelation touches it and it appreciates the stone, but he asks, is it holy? And Uriah nods and says yes, and Revelation hits him with a flat, why? Just like working this old man up, dude, Uriah nods and he's like, it throws him off, right? He's like, he stammers. He's like, what do you mean, why? Uriah explains that thousands of years ago, there was a holy man who was deaf and blind. Keep that in mind.
Okay.
Deaf and blind. Okay?
Deaf and blind.
He was walking around through here when a storm came in and swamped him out, right? The man took shelter from the storm from the angle of the stone. So the stone's like sitting at like a 45 maybe. And the man is sort of seeking shelter underneath the rock as he's just getting swamped. Blind, deaf, doesn't know what's going on, finds a stone somehow.
Sure, through divine intervention.
Sure. And this is what Revelation's getting at. During that storm, it was struck by lightning as he's like sitting under it.
Mhm.
Struck by lightning from the heavens, where the holy man saw the stone in his mind's eye, wreathed in blue fire, and saw the face of the creator and heard his voice.
Okay.
Revelation, much like us, is also confused here on the blind and deaf part and how the guy was able to do all this. Uriah says that the power of this god cured the holy man of his afflictions, and that he immediately ran home and told people of the miracle that happened. He instructed the close township to build a church here, where a spring began to flow from the base of the stone after a few years.
Okay.
The waters here were said to be imbued with healing properties that would cure diseases or mend limbs, and people came from far and wide to get healed here.
Okay. I've heard this story before.
Sure. And you know, a lot of things are like that in various religions. Revelation says it sounds similar to a story from, quote, east of here, where a girl had a divine intervention of a vision of a holy woman that curiously coincided with the organization her aunt was also a religious member of. So she saw a vision of someone who looked just like her aunt. Bathing houses were set up there too, and people saw it as taboo because of how much it produced. So like they put a bath up there too, and it produced a shitload of water.
Yeah.
They would only change the water in the pool twice a day.
I mean, that's more than what gets done now, so.
Gross, right? But even though hundreds of dying and diseased pilgrims would use it and get in the water. I mean, gross, right? They would only change it twice a day. Oh, it's holy water, right?
Doesn't mean it's clean.
Well, you know.
It's just holy.
The miracle in Revelation's eyes was that anyone emerged alive from the waters at all. He's like, it's a miracle. I agree. Because someone else should have died in that water, right? He does read the rock here, and he says that it is hematite. So he's like putting his hand over it, rubbing his hand down it. And he says it's hematite, which I don't know if you know anything about rocks. Do you know anything about rocks?
Not a whole lot.
I mean, think it's funny personally.
I got amethyst up there, and then I got a rock from the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Sure. I think it's funny because hematite, it's known for grounding and protection. I think it's funny because something that's known for grounding got struck by lightning. I find it funny that it got hit by lightning. That's just the funny part. You know,
I get it.
It's grounding.
I get it.
I digress, though. Revelation is trying to say it's unremarkable and debunks the miracle of this church. He's just like, it's just a rock. It got hit by lightning. There's no miracle.
Right.
He explains, and Uriah does not want to hear it, you know, because it's questioning his faith. Revelation argues that instead of seeing visions and miracles, the human brain shows only ideas or interpretations of what we perceive instead, which, yeah, right? He argues the holy man in this story was perceiving the greatness out of fear of the situation. He must have imagined it all. He must have. Uriah is getting worked up here. But he argues that he himself has had personal experience with the divine. Revelation loves this. He's like, personal experience, you know? An experience, this is quote, an experience utterly convincing to you, which cannot be proved or disproven.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah, he's like, he's not letting Uriah get off on this one.
No.
He wants to know where this vision came from. Uriah says it was on a battlefield half a century ago in the lands of the Franks. So this would be in France.
Okay.
50 years prior to this. Uriah becomes flustered by Revelation's demeanor, which, by the way, we're gonna do some quick math. So 50 years ago, he was on this battlefield. 55 years ago, he was given a bottle of wine at the age of 15.
So that means he was on the battlefield at 20.
At 20, correct. So as a young man. But Uriah becomes flustered here by Revelation's demeanor. The two sit down on some pews and just joust with words. This is where Revelation really begins to test Uriah here, even mocking the book he has been keeping sacred all this time. You know, Uriah sees it as the holy work of his God, speaking to everyone who wishes to read it, Revelation views it as, quote, 9 centuries worth of agglomerated texts assembled, rewritten, translated, and twisted to fit the needs of hundreds of mostly anonymous or unknown writers. He's like, oh, it's a book that's been translated and flipped and flopped and done all this other stuff too. Sure. Asking him why this book is a basis for him or anyone to take guidance from. Revelation sees this as a double-edged sword. Because he's like, yeah, it's a book that's been written by man. It wasn't written by God, was it? Because if it was, it would be divine, but it's not. So it's not, you know? He's killing him, dude. He's taking him right now. And we're like, you know, it's one-on-one. And I understand Uriah's...
It's 1-on-1, but the score's 3-1.
Yeah. I understand Uriah's side, though. Like, I get it. He's arguing belief. Revelation's arguing reason.
Right.
He says that if a man hears voices, he's locked in an asylum. But if he hears the voice of God, his fellow clerics make him into a saint.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, it's a different type of asylum.
Yeah. But he's just going back and forth here, you know? I mean, honestly, he's not wrong at all, but it is a very single-minded view here, to say the least. And really, to me, Revelation is just showcasing what he feels about it. And it is really just his own view. You know, I mean, how do you feel about this?
I mean, I can definitely see the argument from both sides. You got the religious aspect. It's like you said, you got the religious aspect and then you have the reason aspect, but you can't reason with religion.
Yeah. And then that's the argument I think that Revelation's making, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that you should reason with religion, right? It's if people need to believe whatever they want to believe. People...
Well, no. I'm sorry to cut you off right there.
Yeah.
I don't think you should be able to reason with religion as well, because religion is based off belief. And if you believe in something hard enough or strong enough or however you want to describe it, you can in some way get it done.
Yeah.
Whether it's through your own sheer willpower,
Right.
whether it's, you know, the cards laying down the way that you want them to lay down, you know, it all depends. But that's off the belief system.
Yeah, and I agree.
The reasoning behind that is it just works.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make sense.
Right. Right. And so because Revelation is trying to make sense, he has to.
Yes.
That's where the crux of this back and forth comes from to me as well. I agree with that. I think that people should be able to believe whatever they want, do whatever they want, feel however they want. There are laws and there are rules.
Right.
But as far as belief, it's one of the core pillars of humanity. That's the argument here.
Yeah.
And so I've told people in the past, there are 3 types of belief that are common. So there's belief in a person, like I can believe you're the right person for the job. There's belief in yourself, like I believe that I can accomplish something, or I believe if I take this next fart, I'm not going to shit my pants. Man, are we wrong about that one half the time.
Never trust a fart.
Or
life's advice, never trust a fart.
Yeah, yes, thank you. Or the third belief is in a higher power. And so in every aspect, those 3, to me, this is what I say, those 3 come up every time. You either believe in the process, you believe in a person, or you believe in a higher power. Yourself, a person, power.
Yeah.
And that's just the core principle behind what most people argue. If you were to ask anyone, that's how I boil it down. But I agree, it's a very single-minded view that Revelation is taking. I understand why he's taking it, though.
Yeah.
Uriah argues that he knows what he saw. Duh.
I know what I saw.
Yeah, I know what I saw. You can argue with me that I didn't see it. You would be wrong, but I know what I saw. All those years ago at Frank, story time. We're gonna cut away from this. He says, on the killing fields of Gajuare. Ooh, here comes the lore. Ooh. Revelation is respectful of this mention, acting surprised that the priest was at Gajuare. Uriah, he's like, Gajuare. Now there's something we can talk about. Uriah takes another drink and he begins to tell us and Revelation about Gajuare. Revelation himself counts Gajuare as a bloody day that was hard fought for everyone who was at it. Uriah calls out this youngster in front of him because Uriah is was 70, 80 years old, saying there was no way Revelation was at Gajuare because he looks too young. Revelation says he remembers it well. Ooh, I remember it well. What do you think?
I mean, obviously, it sounds like he was there. So
it does sound like he was there. Uriah tells us that he was born in a nearby town nearly 80 years ago. Now, again, nearly 80 years would put him in that 70, 75 range. But every other bit of math ain't mathing on that for what he said or what's written. So I'm going to put him at 70, on the 70 side.
Okay.
He was a youngster son of the local lord. So he was a rich boy. They were a rich family who owned all the land from the mountains down to the mainland bridge, he says. He cannot complain about his childhood and said he was a petulant kind of kid and caroused with drinking as a spoiled brat would do. He was a total pampered pretty boy.
Yeah.
Hindsight's 2020, but it's too late to regret anyways. So he decided he was going to travel the world before the emperor conquered it all because he didn't agree with the emperor's mission. Revelation argues that the emperor doing that, conquering, was a good thing, but Uriah says scornfully that even if humanity had fizzled out and died off, it would potentially have been better off that way for how miserable mankind always is. Which is like so stark to hear a priest say.
Yeah,
you know?
Wait a minute.
But it's accurate, right? Like, we can always find something to bitch about, always find something to make worse. His father gave him the resources and bodyguard soldiers to protect him on his journey, and he left to travel far and wide. He watched the industry of the New World in the very early stages of building for the emperor in factories. So he's going through countries that have already been conquered, and he's watching them build things for the emperor. In factories, seamstress halls, and textile goods, all of it's being turned towards the emperor. He crossed Europa and saw that it was all turned and people were already starry-eyed about the new Lord of Man. He met his first Thunder Warrior while he was out drunk and whoring. That's how it is described. Which, what a night, bro. Got drunk with the boys, whored it up, met a 10-foot tall proto-human. You know what I'm saying? Fuck yeah, dude.
That'd be
that's
crazy.
A night, right?
That's a crazy night.
Kind of how I met you know what I'm saying? I was drunk and whoring around, and then I met this big bastard, Connor, in at culinary school.
I strolled in.
You know? There it is. He was drunk and decided to talk some shit to a Thunder Warrior about the Emperor. Right? As you do.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, fuck it.
I mean, of course.
Bad move, in my opinion. He pissed one off who stomped up to him and picked his little ass up, laughing at him. He like just pulls him up off the ground because he's almost double his size.
Yeah.
He literally shouts, telling Uriah to shut up, and then throws him off a cliff into the sea. Like, what, dude? Just picks him up, flicks him into the ocean off a cliff. So he's drunk as hell, inciting this Thunder Warrior, and the Thunder Warrior just like flicks him off the cliff.
Yeah.
I would just pretend I died. Like, that'd be so embarrassing.
I mean, I wouldn't even pretend that I died. I'd be dead. You're going off a cliff into
that'd be so ocean. Fucking embarrassing, dude. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, at that point, I don't think they have an ocean, right?
Well, at that point they did. So we know that there's still an ocean. Yeah. It gets kind of weird, right?
Yeah, it's into a pond.
Uriah tells him that this made his butt hurt for sure, you know, and he would maintain this embarrassed hatred all his life. The end. I'm just kidding. No, but he says it was totally called for because he was an asshole, and he took the lesson to heart.
Yeah.
He took a sand skimmer across the Mediterranean Dust Bowl. Big oof. So we know that the Mediterranean Sea is dried up.
Yes.
He also said he traveled to the wastelands of the Nordafric conclaves. Remember the Nordafric? We were there last time with Faldor when they went to Mullen Sin.
Yeah.
But he never came across a place the Emperor hadn't been. He even went to the east far and saw the ruins of a place called Ursh. and the fallen bastions of Narthan Dune. But even those places, there were people celebrating the Emperor as well. I mean, World Star Emperor, dude. You know what I'm saying? He is all over the place. Uriah sounds like a real problems with authority kind of guy to me. He does at this point in the story. But we know he kind of mellowed out, still had problems with the Emperor, but he was just like, I wish I could go somewhere the Emperor isn't. Yeah. The younger version of Uriah sounds like such a douche. He sounds like a douche, you know? He decides finally that he does know one way to not be around the Emperor. And this is just one of those decisions, like, you look back on things from a long way into the future and just explain them to yourself. And it's like, bro, what was I on about? Guess what he does? How do you think you would find a place the Emperor hasn't been? Give me a guess.
How would I find a place that the Emperor hasn't been? Mm-hmm. I mean, I would probably break it down by where he's been. Where has he been?
Right.
Because I feel that's going to be the best way to figure out where he hasn't been.
Yeah. Yeah. The way he does it is he joins the people opposed to the Emperor as a soldier in Frank.
Well, okay.
Because, of course, if there's resistance, the Emperor isn't there because they're opposed. Mm-hmm. Bad move, because we know what's happening to those people right now. He joins a growing resistance group that slowly begins to number 40,000. Product placement. 40,000 members, right? He said the thing. He said the thing. He said the thing.
He said the title!
Yeah. And they just decide to, they just march on out of the place that they hear that the Emperor is mustering forces in. They're just like, let's go fuck them up.
I don't think that's how that went, but
they try to catch them out in the open. That was their plan. It's like 40,000 of us. What could go wrong? You know, I mean, the heroism and bravado here would have been heady for sure for these guys. They probably felt like heroes, especially with the French. We know how the French are. You know, the resistance things. They're like.
Yeah,
they're
kind of their thing.
They're really folk hero kind of people. They got the small folk that are like dancing along with them, helping them out, giving them food, supplies, weapons to go fight the Emperor. Within a week, they found Gajuare and decided to set up an uphill battle scenario for the Emperor's forces. So they're uphill. They see the Emperor down in the basin. They're going to set up a trap for him. I'm getting Mullen Send flashbacks here already, because it was an uphill battle with flamers, and they wrecked house, right? And these are Thunder Warriors they're going up against.
Yes.
So we already know the problems with them. The thing about this is it's not like Mullen Send, though, because Mullen Send, they were fighting versus like techno-barbarians and wizards. These are just French people, you know?
Normal people.
These are just normal people that are going up against Thunder Warriors, and they are doomed, bro. You know what I'm saying?
It's 40,000 death wishes.
Yeah, exactly. So Revelation even tells him this was incredibly dumb for him to do, because they had no hope to fight against these guys. Uriah tells him they had a numbers advantage of 50,000 troops versus 5,000 Thunder Warriors at the start of Gajuare. Okay, so it is 10-1 right now. Mm-hmm. These guys probably felt like they had the shit in the bag, honestly. And you already know what's going to happen. Before I even tell you what's going to happen, you already know what happened at this fight.
Yeah.
So they decide to charge downhill on horseback towards the Thunder Warriors. Towards the Thunder Warriors.
You had the height advantage. That was dumb.
They needed a little bit more. They were like, on top of a horse, a lot taller. They charged downhill at the Thunder Warriors, who just stood still.
I mean, yeah. What else are you going to do?
And you know what the Thunder Warriors did? They blasted the shit out of them at point blank range. I mean, it's not even close, dude. We already know what happened to the Legio Contagious after Mullen Send, because they have better weapons here in this fight for sure. So this is after Mullen Send that this fight took place, because they even talk about Nordafric conclaves being overtaken already, whereas in Valdor they weren't. So they've already got the better armor, the better shit, the better shields, the better weapons, everything.
Or this is the Thunder Warriors 2.0.
Exactly. This is very close to when they're betrayed. So they have better weapons, everything. Uriah says the first volley cut down the first 5 ranks of charging infantry on his side in one volley. Now keep in mind, again with a numbers advantage, 10-1, 50,000 people, first 5 ranks, instantly dead. First round out of 5,000 guns.
I mean, are they still shooting 105?
I'm not sure what they're shooting. They're shooting that shit for sure. He turned to shout something and stumbled, falling into the remains of a man who had, quote, his entire left side blown off. So he falls into a split in half person. It looked like he'd exploded from the inside out. That's the rest of the quote. And they just don't learn, bro. Honestly. Luckily,
humans.
Yeah. Luckily, Uriah was on the ground when the second volley scorched over his head, and that was when the screaming began. So the first 5 ranks people died without a sound, besides the retort of these guns. And then after that, people were like, oh shit.
Right.
You know, it's not every story that showcases what ignorant humans getting mowed down by essentially 5,000 Hercules Marines looks like. But these last 2 stories have really showcased that.
Yeah.
The Thunder Warriors set about them with chain swords and power sabers, as Uriah would never forget the noises they made. People were begging for mercy, but we already know Thunder Warriors ain't about that. They're flawed, on the battlefield. So I don't have to go into detail here. You know what happened. Uriah, unashamed, ran from the battlefield. He deserted, right? That's how he survived. He's gone. He sobs here that he doesn't remember much because he ran until he crawled and then passed out. Bro is on a marathon to get away from this battlefield.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere out in the dark, he could hear the chanting and the smell of blood of the Thunder Warriors from that battlefield, even as far away as he ran. He ran until he couldn't run anymore, passed out, woke up, still could hear and smell the things that were happening on that battlefield.
Sounds like he got like a block away.
Oh, yeah, I know. The Thunder Warriors killed every single person there, besides Uriah, in the actual lore. Everyone died.
Mm-hmm.
It took 1 hour for Gajuare to begin and end with 50,000 casualties. That's how fast it was over.
That's a lot.
Yeah. That's almost 1,000 people a minute. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's laying on his back, wishing for something to make it all end. And which is like, why the fuck you run away if you wanted it to die, you know? That's when he receives his divine intervention, he said. He looked up and saw a golden face above that shone radiantly, even to make him weep for beauty of how radiant it was. He thought he would go blind if he didn't look away. It was the most exquisite thing he's ever seen. He was lifted up and spoken to by the face, where it said, "Why do you deny me? Accept me, and you will know that I am the only truth and the only way." What does that sound like to you?
Sounds like the Emperor.
It does sound like the Emperor to me. Revelation is incredibly skeptical that this was just an epiphany or mirage conjured up by the fear of almost dying. Uriah says, "Get out of my head, bro. You wasn't even there." Like you don't know what I saw. He awoke and his wounds are healed. So he had this vision. He was talked to by whatever this was, and then he woke up and he was healed. He survived a piece of bone shrapnel that had blown off of somebody and embedded itself into the base of his skull, just millimeters from severing his spinal cord.
That's pretty intense.
Yeah. When he returns to his childhood home to talk to his father, he finds that Scandian raiders, Scandian being Scandinavian, had killed everyone. He found his way to the church and found his reason being to serve their God and bring his word to the unbelievers. That's the story. He is assuming Revelation is here because he must be one of the Emperor's sympathizers who are going around to antagonize people for their beliefs. Revelation says he is correct in some way. Everyone is turning away from belief and it is Revelation's duty to try and convince him of the error of religion and turn towards the new way of the Emperor's truth. So that we get to the core of the matter here, why Revelation is here. He's trying to turn Uriah to the imperial truth.
Okay.
Interestingly here enough, Uriah asks Revelation, or what? It's a very valid question. Like, I got to do this or what? And Revelation just tombstones his ass by saying, there is no or. Time's up. Revelation invites Uriah to hear his tale now about all the bad religion and belief has done. Uriah says, quote, and then what? Then you're going to go on your merry way? Revelation, like the Grim Reaper here, responds with, we both know that's not going to happen, don't we?
Pretty ominous.
Mm-hmm. Revelation tells a story of a place known as Zoza on the outside of Nordic, a place where gene-bred livestock caused the death of almost 1,000 people. So gene-bred cows cost 1,000 people their lives.
Mm-hmm.
He says they were a half-starved herd of wretched creatures. Uriah recognizes Zoza and remembers it as ruins that he walked through at some point. Revelation is telling a story of a place that even before Gajuare was ruins. So this is very far away. Not even, he's like, you don't remember Gajuare. This motherfucker remembers before that.
Mm-hmm.
Keep up with that.
I am.
Revelation says the cattle walked through a building that was important to a local cult known as the Zozarites. They believed the gene-bred cows were an affront to their god, and they blamed the rival Apashtar for transgressing against them. The Zozarites led a holy war against the Apashtar and killed all of them, or at least as many as they could find. While the Apashtar wouldn't just lay down and die, so they retaliated until close to 1,000 people were dead off of both sides. Uriah asks what the point of the story was, because he's like, what is the point of this? And Revelation says, quote, it tells a universal story and typifies religious behavior that has been recurring since the beginning of human history. So he's like, this is how it always goes. That's the point of this story.
Okay.
Uriah scoffs at this and says it's rather broad, and not every religion or religious person does things like this, so he's generalizing. But Revelation stays the course here and continues to drive home his argument by saying that records of human history show that where religion is strong, it causes cruelty, with, quote, intense beliefs produce intense hostilities. Only when faith loses its force can a society hope to become human.
Okay.
Uriah isn't convinced. He argues that most of this holy book is allegorical or non-literal, and Revelation gets his ass here. He's like, this book doesn't have anything like that. It's just allegorical and it's not literal. He snaps his fingers and says, that's the point. Saying Uriah and priests like him just pick and choose what they want to see from the text and apply them to situations rather than just living by the words that are page for page. I mean, I got to agree with him.
Yeah.
That decision is human, not divine, so he proves Revelation's point. He tells Uriah of the Maya, the Mayans, who sacrificed people to their feather serpent god to appease it. Uriah gets mad, saying you can't compare these two religions. Like, I'm worshiping a lightning stone. Those guys were killing people.
I mean,
we see now that this book is kind of hinted that it's a Bible that Uriah is holding on to. It's hinted here that it is a Bible.
I mean, I kind of figured it was a Bible in the beginning. I mean, it's a priest talking about a book. Not many other books that they talk about.
Well, there's plenty of other books, right? But he says...
Not many.
He says that people use this book in the past to launch a crusade crying, Deus Vult, or God wills it, right? So we know that specifically is probably an Orthodox or Catholic Bible. Not
Old Testament.
Well, yeah, probably. They marched on foreign kingdoms and dragged those in their own homeland to the stake or tortured them first. They became zealots and marched thousands of miles to kill everyone in their holy city of choice. They even established an inquisition. This is why I think it's a Bible. They established an inquisition that gave free rein to psychopaths and madmen to terrorize their own people in the name of God. And Uriah is angry as hell right now, saying that Revelation must pick the most extreme cases, and so he is wrong because he's also picking and choosing, which that's a catch-22. Got your ass for sure. Like,
Yeah.
Yes, you're picking the worst one, so of course you're right, but you're also picking and choosing. I really agree with Uriah here, but they both seem to be wrong about at least some of their twisted viewpoints. Uriah has had enough. He wants Revelation to leave. There have been thousands of bad things done by humans to humans in the name of this God and that, but they also do those things to each other anyways, just as many things as well, which I agree. Regardless of religion, humans are just kind of cruel sometimes. Honestly, a great point. They do be sucking and shit. Like, they do, they do be, for sure. Uriah says when his time comes, he will die with the name of his God still on his lips. Revelation asks, quote, "Are you afraid to die, Uriah?" The response is no, truly. He says, quote, "I have my share of sins, but I have spent my life in the service of my God, and I believe that I have served him faithfully and well." Revelation traps him and says, basically, then why do you comfort those that are dying when eternal paradise is just around the corner? You should be celebrating with them. I mean,
Yeah.
we'll hold on to that one, right? He kneels. He's like, why are they not happier about dying then? As Uriah storms off, we can hear the wind gathering outside. He kneels and bows his head before the altar downstairs, praying to God aloud. He says, God will protect. And there it is again. Do you sense a pattern here based off of something we've heard in Valdor, Birth of the Imperium?
The Emperor protects. God will protect.
We're getting there. It was brought up last with Uwama Kandawire. Almost the beginning of a mantra humanity will pick up together. Only the strong are protected, she said. Only the strong are preserved. God will protect. You've already stated the pattern here. The Emperor will protect.
The Emperor protect.
Yeah, the Emperor protects, right? These are it's just slowly evolving forward with this story. Uriah says, no more games, get it over with. Revelation obliges him. The whole church glows and just floods with golden light, filling the whole church, every nook and cranny, with his presence. He perceives Revelation here as, quote, wonderful and magnificent, whereas before he was just a dude. Clad in golden armor, fashioned with love and the greatest skill, every plate embossed with thunderbolts and eagles.
It's Big E himself.
And his name is John Emperor Warhammer. Where Revelation was, now the Emperor himself stands before Uriah. Uriah recognizes him at once. The last time he saw the Emperor, it was at Gajuare. And Uriah is shook to hell, dude. He's literally flabbergasted. The Emperor tells him it is time to go. Embrace the world as it is into the future. That's it. There is no or. As he's ushered to the door by the Emperor, the doors open outside and howling wind and rain blow into the halls here, chilling Uriah to the bone. He looks back to see the church. It's got lit candles in there, blowing out in the church forever as the wind slams the doors shut and they both walk out into the rain. Uriah is soaked in a storm outside and he sees hundreds of soldiers standing in ranks, Legio Contagious. So this is before the end of Valdor currently takes place, but a lot of the story takes place before Valdor took place. So it's kind of going back and forth. And we'll get to something like that here in a little bit. Yes, everything is going to be jumping all around. We'll get to that. This story could potentially take place at the same time or even during the beginning of Valdor, Birth of the Imperium, to me at least. But here's the catch. These warriors are wearing strange plates. I said, Legio Contagious because Uriah perceives them as Legio Contagious. He was not at whatever happened in front of the Imperial Palace. He doesn't know the Legio Contagious are dead. I don't actually believe they are Legio Contagious. Here's the catch, right? He says these warriors are wearing strange plate, power packs, and enclosed helmets. Those aren't Thunder Warriors like he remembers them. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they are. I think they're Astartes.
First.
Yep, I think they're the first for sure. The Emperor puts his cloak around Uriah as the troops begin to burn the church down with flamers and incendiary grenades. Uriah begins to weep and looks up at the Emperor, asking him, quote, "How can you do this? You say you stand for reason and the advancement of understanding, but here you are destroying a repository of knowledge." But the Emperor just looks down and says, quote, "Some things are best left forgotten." I mean, he is just ice cold. Uriah curses him and hopes he has seen the consequences of humanity without religion. The Emperor again says, "I have. It is my dream for humanity to be without religion." So yeah, I've seen what the consequences are. That's my dream. He reveals that he doesn't just want to see a united Terra, he wants to see a united galaxy with Terra as its heart and capital. Uriah finally understands what the vision and scale of all this is. Uriah calls him a madman to think he could subjugate the stars with warriors like these. But the Emperor is wrapping things up quickly here for the last few paragraphs of the story. He says these warriors are to be his generals, moving the crusade into the stars. So they are indeed Astartes, at least the first ones that left Terra.
Mm-hmm.
They are generals because, much like chapter masters in 40K, during the Great Crusade, there are technically people that are still, that would be considered like, the Legio Contagious had Primarchs.
Mm-hmm.
The Astartes have Primarchs as well, but they're just considered like generals or first captains or stuff like that. And then a lot of them go on to meet their Primarchs and turn the Legion over towards their fathers, who are the Primarchs.
Okay.
So it kind of wiggles around here. But he says that these soldiers will die and be replaced by their counterparts and the Crusade era Astartes. So these aren't Thunder Warriors, but they also aren't the Crusade era Astartes. They're at the very beginning. They're like the original stock.
Mm-hmm.
Uriah asks finally, that doesn't this madness make him no better than those that come before? The Emperor, king of one-liners here, says, quote, "The difference is I know I'm right," which is just like bone chilling, dude. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Uriah is unimpressed for sure. Uriah knows that for all this man is, he is not the person he wants to follow. He says, quote, "I hope in the name of all that is holy, you are right, but I dread the future you are forging for humanity. I will not be part of it." He throws the cloak on the ground and runs into the church to burn alongside it. The last sound here, as the Emperor and his army march away in the morning amidst the ashes of the last church, is the sound that the clock Uriah had. It starts chiming, a low, broken chime. And that's the end of the story.
It's a good story.
Yeah. Yeah, what do you think about that one?
I enjoyed that one. The reveal at the end was really good.
Yeah. And it showcases, like, this guy walks in to a bar, right? Now he walks into a church. And he's just a plain dude. The Emperor changes the perception of everyone around him. So originally the Emperor did walk in and has disguised himself as Revelation. And then in fact, does this big grand reveal here at the end, which I mean, it's written very well. I like it for sure. And it is stated, although I didn't write it down, that they sat there and watched it burn until the sun rose. And the Emperor turned and walked away. The last church.
That's a deed done.
Yep. So second story here is called Lupus Daemonis. Lupus Daemonis is written by Graham McNeil. It's published in March of 2021. So 12 years after the first one we just read, after Last Church was written, Lupus Daemonis was written in the Blood of the Emperor anthology. It's narrated by Christopher Tester on Audible. I really like Christopher Tester's narration in Blood of the Emperor. There are a couple stories here from an anthology book called Scions of the Emperor, but this one is from a book called Blood of the Emperor, and it is an anthology series.
Okay.
So, of course, it's made up of other small short stories. They take place at different times, so we're not going to be reading more than 2 probably from any one book of anthology because they're all over the place. Some of them take place even after the Siege of Terra, and they were written like 10 years ago. So before they even knew how they were going to end the series, they were writing books past that.
That seems problematic, but okay.
Yeah, for sure. So this book is seen as the earliest view into a Primarch homeworld. Because remember, they were all shot away from Terra. The Emperor has found them. Last church, he's moving forward. He's going to take to the stars.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the earliest view into a Primarch homeworld at the end of the 700s of M30.
Okay.
Chronologically, that's where it takes place. It is also an addition to the story of someone we will get into, which may shatter your expectations of this book.
Okay.
Or this story. It's not really considered controversial, but there is a lot of disappointment about a certain turning point in this book being written the way that it was.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people feel it's almost a plot device or a driving point that is inconsistent just to give the big reveal and not follow the narrative that's already established.
Okay.
Again, written by Graham McNeil, narrated on Audible by Christopher Tester. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
In the timeline, this is still placed somewhere during the end of the 700s of M30. I won't tell you which Legion fans were excited about this extra lore in this story because it's built into the climax and the reveal, but we will get there for sure. You ready for this?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. My favorite quote from this book: "The struggle is all there is. It is all that matters." Setting the tone.
Mm-hmm.
So this story starts with someone named Nergui. No, his name is Nergui. He is a human. He is a tribal.
Is he green?
No. Well, he might be. He's dirty. He's a tribal runt scavenging amongst the detritus of a place known as the Utter Dark. So it's utter dark. Okay. He is remembering being rescued as a child by someone nondescript, at least at this point of the story. We get a sense of what life is like in this place called the Utter Dark. It is described as brutal, ritualistic, and full of murder. He was being rescued after a bloody bout down here.
Mm-hmm.
The Utter Dark is described as a place where gangs, families, and clans exist in a state of perpetual turf war, where cut marks are used to show who belongs to what tribe, but even these trappings of civilization didn't always stop murder from finding you one way or another.
That's pretty crazy. Even cut marks is
yeah, they're like, it's like in the Predator movies. What are those called?
Mm-hmm.
Is it just the Predator?
Yeah,
movies?
it's Predator.
Okay.
Yeah, Predator.
It's like in the Predator movies when they like mark them with the fucking blood, and they sear it into them and stuff. The Yautja, I think that's what they're called.
No.
I dabble in a little bit of Alien and Predator lore, you know what I'm saying? Into many lords as well, right? Second podcast after this, we're going to go into every Elder Scrolls book. This is a quote of what the Utter Dark looks like. "Down in the Utter Dark, life was teeming and cheap. Brothers murdered brothers, parents abandoned babies, and wives killed husbands." I mean, it's a real nasty place, described physically by saying, quote, "In the lightless warrens of filth-choked tunnels infesting the planet's bedrock like maggots in moldy bread." That's where this place is. It's like the metro, but these rocks these tunnels are caves. He is remembering the person carrying him in this memory as his adoptive father, who was saving him from a gang war.
Okay.
The fighting in it seemed monstrous, and the idea of fighting on this planet seems to be especially brutal, being described as, quote, "You fought until your gun ran dry, until your knife dulled and snapped, until your fists were broken. You only lay down when your heart stops beating or your skull was bashed open with a rock. You fought until they cut your throat and laid the mirror coins on your eyes. That's how these people fight. And these are just
dirty
humans.
Mm-hmm.
He's remembering this fight in particular that was broken up by the death of his father figure. His death is remembered when a ricochet blew out his kneecap and he was cut open on the side with a mechanized, tooth-edged axe that cut through into his lungs. So a ricochet takes his knee out as he's falling. Someone just comes in with that side swing and gets him straight on the side, just with the head of a mechanized axe, churning up his insides.
Mm-hmm.
He falls dead next to Nergui, which really adds to how close quarters all this was and how tight the confines are in these caves that are being shown to us. Nergui remembers watching his father die through his own eyes, described as shining and sea green, which seems strange for a world that has never known a sea to me. They're all in, and so why do they know the fucking? Yeah, I'm not gonna get into it. The Nergui's first memory of murder is this, but it's stated this would not be his last. We get a sense that murder and gang violence, disloyalty and abuse of power play heavy upon the culture of this world we are viewing, and indeed are massive themes for its people. This planet is Chthoniya. It's described to us and then told it's Chthoniya. Do you know Chthoniya? Okay. Which out of 19 possible really important worlds is probably one of the most important worlds we can hear about right now. Do you want me to tell you why it's important, or do you want to find out?
Let's find out.
Sure. Inside a metal-clad iron scaffolding is where we see Nergui's story continue, down in the Deep Rat Caverns. The Deep Rats are another clan, or a gang. We get some really cool tone-setting descriptors of this place with smell, sound, and texture. Usually those things aren't used as descriptors in books, just like sight, sound, feeling, emotion. But we get some smells, a texture, and some sounds. This place is given a defining smell for us as, quote, lingering fumes from pipe bomb explosions, gunfire hung in acrid screeds.
Okay.
Just gives us a definition of how active or hostile this location is and how metallic and acidic the gunpowder residue is in the air here.
Yeah.
This area is described texturally as the rocky floor was slippery with sweat, shit, and the wet remains of disembowelments. So just imagine you're on the side of a creek bank and you just walking through all that cold mud with your toes, dude. That's what it feels like here, but it is sweat, shit, and the wet remains of people getting their bowels popped out.
I ain't going that creek no more.
And the sounds of this dark place are quoted with whooping yells from the flesh-blooded Reaver Braves filled the air. It's acrid, tangy, and gunpowdery down here. The floor is wet with detritus and human remains, and there's people yelling and whooping in these tunnels like braves. I ain't surviving that. You know what I'm saying?
I ain't going nowhere near
it will not be me. As his own clan is seen here dragging the limp corpse remains of the Deep Rat clan into nearby thermal shafts that lead down to the volcanic pits at the core of the world, where they can be dropped and disposed of. So I imagine Terraria, right? There's just tunnels that are going everywhere, and then there's a hole in some of those tunnels that just leads down to the core of the world at weird angles. This place sounds like a planet from the Chronicles of Riddick.
Yeah.
Where the world itself is a prison for insane inmates and the depravities of feral humanity. That's what it sounds like.
Okay.
Chthoniya is described more by saying that there are stories of other clans venturing down into these deep chasms when the orbit of the planet causes it to cool. So just like in Riddick, the planet gets close to the sun and heats the fuck up, and then it gets far away from the sun and snows the fuck out, right? It gets ice cold, burning hot. Deep down, there are said to be incredibly mineral-rich shafts of gems and encrusted vaults that can be accessed by the most powerful clans that they use to increase their own wealth before the orbit heats the planet back up and blocks access to those areas. It's a real looter shooter here. You know what I'm saying? This is an extraction game they're in, where it's like during certain times you can get the loot and then you got to get out. That's what it's being described as. But it's totally like just a rip on the planet from Chronicles of Riddick. Nergui is watching jealously as his fellow clansmen are carving their names into the chests of their victims. This ritual mark is called a kill name. So they're new names for themselves that they earn with murder.
Okay.
They complete this ritual by smearing their victims' blood across their own eyes and mouths and howling like savage beasts. It is stated here, so probably not health and safety compliant, especially for unaltered humans. These guys are in the dark, smearing things all over each other, running around bare feet, stabbing each other. That's how brutal it is down here. Right?
Okay.
We are introduced to a figure here which leads the Reaver clan that Nergui is part of, called Kigedon. He's hauling the Deep Rat's chieftain around by his top knot. So he's just yanking this man around caveman style.
Yeah.
He's trying to fight for his life, but I'm not thinking this is going to end well for him. Let me tell you.
I mean, if you're already getting hauled around by your top knot, first off, you have a top knot.
And they're just they're described here as like Native Americans, right? Like they're described as braves. So they're running around down here in like tribal warfare. Nergui recalls that there is an understanding here in the Underdark stated as you had to fight so hard they had to kill you. Mm-hmm. Also stating that you had to do this because you did not want to be captured, because the clans are not gentle with captives, so death was always preferable to the alternative, saying that tortures were so intense that, quote, they reduced even the strongest willed to soiled, gibbering lunatics. So it's not going to go well for this guy. He should have fought till they killed him. Mm-hmm. But since he didn't. Kigedon is described here as a, quote, hulking metal and flesh body. So he would be incredibly hard to kill down here with bare bone resources or literal shivs designed to gut bare flesh. There's no way anyone's standing up to Kigedon.
Right.
He gives the chieftain the old Futurama Hall of Presidents, you know?
Yeah.
Let's just not. We're not going to go into it, but he lets the fresh squeezed California neck juices flow down over his mouth and eyes here as he gives us his best Ghost of Mars impression. You ever seen that movie Ghost of Mars?
No.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, total savage. He just took this guy's top right off, is letting the juice just dribble down over himself into his mouth and eyes. That's what Kigedon's doing right now with this tribal chieftain.
I mean, it sounds more Mayan than Braves.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't get hung up on... I think it's just the depiction here, you know?
Yeah.
Nergui is shown here almost revering and admiring Kigedon out of fear that he creates. But Nergui is ultimately shown as insignificant within his tribe by showcasing that he's got scars and like patchwork all over his body. And that he is viewed like a Frankenstein-esque like freak, not worthy of their attention, and they beat him regularly. All of them do that except for Kigedon, who is shown here almost as his caretaker, or at least the one who watches over him. He was found by Kigedon hanging from a flesh hook in an abattoir cave of the Corpse Grinders. Corpse Grinders being another faction, where they were readying him for a roast, like to be eaten, like over a spit.
Okay.
Which is so Rob Zombie, the way I'm envisioning this down here, you know, like the leather apron, gimp mask kind of thing going on. But Kigedon took him back to Reaver territory. All of this while Nergui is described as an infant. So he was hanging from a flesh hook as an infant in an abattoir cave about to be roasted and eaten.
That's pretty brutal.
It's totally fucked up. But
Yeah.
even though Kagedon brought him in, the others never accepted him because of how he looked and how he was different. So we are told here that his name is Nergawi, and it was given to him by Kagedon, and it is in fact a Chthonian slang word for no name.
Okay.
It's to protect him from, quote, the future. The reader is not yet sure at this point in the book what that means, but we'll get there eventually. We also find out that after this reminiscing that Nergawi is doing, that the Deep Rat clan was targeted for their hoarding of useful resources such as gems and metal scrap and decrepit books, which is a point of contention where all the other clans mock the Deep Rats as basically just calling them nerds. Everyone down here is a buff bodybuilder who shanks people on a daily basis, and you guys want to pick up books. Loser! You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how they're seeing them. I think it's hilarious, based off the tone of this book, that they are essentially seen as nerds in a place where people just kill each other.
Insert Homer Simpson.
Yeah, exactly. As Nergawi is running his hands along a mural on the wall of the Deep Rat's cave, we get some world building here of a past or ancient Chthonian told through tribal paintings. World building here is quoted as, the mural depicted harsh blue sun of Chthonian burning above a desolate landscape of soaring machine towers that split the planet's bedrock and greedily drank its bounty. Each tower had a groove chiseled into the rock beneath it, and Nergawi traced their looping lines. These represented the mine workings and endless networks of tunnels that were cut deep into the planet and hollowed it out like the scavengers picking a carcass clean. Between the towers were figures, the men who traveled the stars in cities of stone and steel. I mean, it's fairly epic stuff, that's being showcased here. A lot of it, you have to know how to read some of this stuff from the dense lore of the golden age of humanity. Here's my interpretation. It seems like Chthonian was seen as an incredibly resource-rich planet, and every effort was made by the colonists and settlers in ancient past to extract and move industry to this world. That's what it seems like to me. Whatever happened here during the dark age of technology must have been incredibly bad, because Nergawi states that no one goes to the surface anymore.
Interesting.
Do you know what the word Chthonian is?
No.
So a Chthonian planet is a planet that was once a gas giant. Gas giants have cores, right? When a gas giant loses all of its atmosphere, like its atmosphere breaks and it just gets blown out into the universe, the core that's left behind that cools and hardens is a Chthonian planet. So it looks like a moon, but it was at one point a gas giant. That's why it's like super mineral rich, So Chthonian would look like a dirty, scraped up marble.
Okay.
That these people saw as super resource rich, and they wanted to make a name for themselves out here, the original colonists. However long ago that was. That would have been thousands of years ago, okay? Far beyond the current setting, into like 20K, right? Or even 10K. Why would you go to the surface? And describes the surface as being hostile from the sun that bakes everything to a crisp, the unpleasant chemical burning of the unbreathable air, and there's blue-eyed ghouls up there that stalk whatever ruins are left on the surface and prey on anyone living there they can find.
I'm amazed that a gas giant that lost its, basically all of its gas, still has an atmosphere for humans to breathe on.
Well, oxygen is an element, okay? Elements can get trapped inside of other things. So like oxygen can be created based off of various factors, or it can exist where something else falls off, sort of like H2O, 2 hydrogen atoms, 1 oxygen atom.
Right.
Which is a combination of two elements. But things can be trapped inside of stuff. Like you can get a methane pocket trapped inside of rock. You can get water trapped inside of a geode. You can get, so whenever a planet is going through its cooling phase, a lot of things is going on with it, especially if it loses its atmosphere. Whatever core was left at the center, every element that makes up the core of that planet, if it cools instantly, it becomes trapped inside that planet. Now, it probably didn't have an atmosphere before they colonized it. After they colonized it, completely different story. They would have set up terraforming machines. They would have made breathable atmosphere. This is the golden age of technology we're talking about. So nothing was off the books. But then the dark age of technology happened, and the age of strife happened, and now we're here in the kind of beginning of the Crusade era, after the unity of Terra. But Chthonian would never have known that. They would have just been out in the dark after the golden age of humanity. So I don't know if that answers a little bit better. The planet, if it had never been colonized, most certainly would not have had oxygen. They would be breathable by these people. They stalk the ruins of the surface and prey on anyone living they can find, these ghouls, he says.
The blue-eyed ghouls.
The blue-eyed ghouls. Nevertheless, he is dreaming of more than this terrible life they all have down here in the utter dark. And same, dude. That sucks. That would suck. And I feel bad for you, son. I feel bad for you. Glad I'm not in your predicament.
100%.
As Nergui is daydreaming over this mural and wanting a better life, his eyes focus on a scene that unfolds here. It unfolds in his head of a soaring range of snow-capped mountains at the roof of a world. And again, he's never seen any of this stuff, but he's getting a vision. There is a single tower that stands over the clouds themselves, and a radiant light bursts at its apex like a beacon, it is stated. Nergui shakingly quotes here saying, I know you. What do you think about this?
I mean, if it's a tower at the top of mountain peaks, snow-capped mountain peaks, I would assume that's where the Emperor's Palace is being built. Because discovered, it was said last time that it was built on top of Mount Olympus. Right?
Mount Everest.
Mount Everest, okay.
Yeah.
One of the mountains.
Well, Olympus isn't real. Yeah, it could be. We'll get more into that.
Heard.
This scene is interrupted by several figures that snap everything back to reality. Karamat, Aramnikan, Nyla, and Barsai. They sneak up on him and start to antagonize him. They're essentially bullying him. These fellow braves, that's what they call each other. These fellow braves are just here to rough him up, but things never stop there on Chthonian. So, this isn't going to be described in too much detail because I'm excluding it, but we do get several descriptors here about these four, with all of them having new flesh cuts rubbed with ash to scarify them into remaining into their flesh with ritual marks. So they've all been bloodied, and they've had their kill names. Karamat is the top dog here and gives Nergui more grief than the rest when Nergui says a couple of wrong things. They tease Nergui with a moldy book. He accidentally lets out that he doesn't want them to ruin the book. This is where it's stated that showing this weakness, this is the tipping point for these low IQ individuals, and they start the beating. Okay? After knocking some teeth out of his mouth into splinters, it is stated, cutting open some old wounds and just throttling him like two trailer park relatives fighting over the last Coors banquet at the 4th of July cookout. Karamat decides he's going to go further and just assails Nergui like he's going to end this scrawny kid's life. Nyla tries to intervene, saying that Kageddon wouldn't want them to kill this kid, but Karamat turns on her instead and drives his blade straight through her heart, just ending her instantly. With his bloodlust sated, Karamat turns to Nergui and tells him to clean up this mess before leaving the scene. I mean, honestly, I like the writing here. It feels like a vertical slice out of like the Callisto Protocol or Far Cry Primal or like Assault on Dark Athena, which is the Chronicles of Riddick video game. That's what it feels like.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't like Far Cry Primal, but the melee described here feels exactly like that's supposed to feel, just less gamey. Like everyone has something to lose, and they lose it moment after moment here on Chthoniya. So anyways, Nergui gives Nyla the Palpatine down the old hot hole. He just tosses her down the shaft and heads back to Kagedon with a knife he found off Nyla. Even though she like reached in to help Nergui and lost her life, and Nergui's like, oh, down the hole.
All right.
It's described as its handle had once been a thigh bone, and its grip was carved with thunderbolts originating from a selenite pommel in the shape of a crescent moon. Do you know what selenite means? A moon-like pommel.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, it's badass sounding, this knife. Nergui finds the value placed on this knife and how much more valuable it would be than Nyla's life is a sick and twisted injustice or concept that just needs to change down here. Good luck with that. Like, yeah, it does need to change. It's not going to.
It's not. It's one of those things. It's just the way that's how life is there.
I agree.
You're not going to change it.
Yeah. Might makes right in Chthoniya. Kagedon asks if Nergui killed Nyla, and Nergui responds with, quote, "What does it matter? Who needs a reason to kill down here?" With disdain in his voice. And Kagedon just chuckles, and he says, "You're right. Doesn't matter. But I asked you because you think it matters."
Mm-hmm.
Sort of pushing Nergui into challenging his weak beliefs of injustice. He tells Nergui, quote, "The struggle is all there is. It is all that matters. We fight, we kill, we die. What more does there need to be?" And that's where the quote of this book comes from. The struggle is all there is. It is all that matters.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's telling Nergui this. He's a father figure, but he's not, right? He treats him like shit, but he's keeping him around. I think he's telling Nergui this because he's trying to stop Nergui from being too soft for this world. So he's telling him, like, we fight, we die. That's all there is. Get it out of your head. After this scene here, Nergui decides he's going to use that old mural and its mappings to find his way to the surface and see what there is. It literally can't be worse than dying in the dark down here. So he makes his way through the utter dark tunnels and across various clan territories, which are described here. The territories that are described here are the Hellebore, the pack predator Catchalans, and he makes his way through their immense labyrinth. He crosses over more, and we see some world building here being told through his eyes of the clans of Chthoniya, where he describes the Rukul, right, which had just killed the Arasakul, and were collecting their spoils of war. So the Rukul just killed the Arasokul, and they're sort of collecting them, kind of like his clan, the Reavers, just killed the Deep Rats.
Okay.
We see him head through a cavern where hundreds of corpses are impaled on rad-blown stalagmites out of the ground as they are dripped on and slowly encased, being preserved forever in time. And honestly, this feels like he's making his way out of the layers of hell. You know, I mean, they're like Gehenna. It does not sound like something survivable, just merely the idea of depravity and debauchery itself. I'm totally here for it. It's great world building. It's a lot.
Yeah.
We do hear something about this cavern in particular. It is a trophy cavern of the Justerin. Do you know that name? Justerin.
Not off the top of my head, no.
That's okay. We'll get there. Either way, he sees a dead man here who he identifies as a Sharkol member, signifying that they must be near the surface since the Sharkol are one of the tribes nearest to the surface.
Okay.
They scavenge the underside of the ruins, and he knows he's close now, but as he moves on, he gets a jump scare here. The impaled man is not dead. He is like Vlad the Impaler, ass first, with the stalagmite coming out of his neck on this thing, being dripped on and encased in minerals. That's how fucked up these Justerin are. Nergui sees this man, and he asks Nergui to give him the knife he's wearing so he can die with a weapon in his hand. Nergui holds out the knife and just he doesn't hand it to him. Let me just spoil that one for you right now. He gives him the old, I forgot this bag had a zipper and now I can't close it trick. And he doesn't see this as a worthy kill, just a kill because he had to. So even though he's like doing all this shit and he's like, we shouldn't be doing this, he just slit this guy's potato chip bag. The man wasn't a battle kill, so he can't claim it. And we see here that he's just completely broken by the ideas of Chthoniya. Even though he's depicted as weak and runty and kicked around by his clan, he still feeds into their ways and wants to have his own name through their blood rituals. So he's just not coming back to any sense of civilized humanity. Like, nothing that will ever happen to him will make him normal. He'll always remember this and always have been part of this. Finally, he finds a route to the surface through the back of the Justarin cave, and he begins his final steps to the blue-lit surface where his skin prickles and the air stings his lungs, but he manages to squeeze himself into a shaft with a metal grate on it. But he only gets in his own way here ideologically by warring with himself on what to do next. Now he has seen everything there is to see up here and sees that the only way to go is back into the mines. There's nothing else up on the surface. There's all these ruins and stuff, but where's he going to go? Like, now he's here. What's he going to do?
Right.
He finds his way into an old ruin and abandoned ore depot. We see some more of what the atmosphere on the horizon of Chthoniya looks like to his eyes. Quote, the western horizon shimmered with veils of blue, green, and gold light that rippled as though the sky were on fire. That's what the horizon of Chthoniya looks like.
Okay. I mean, it has no ozone layer, very little atmosphere.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, it's just going to be a ball of fire.
No, the surface isn't a ball of fire. It's just that the atmosphere is weird because he's standing on the ball of fire that would be the surface. It's like, I mean, damn. The color gradient of that is wild to me for sure. Mm-hmm. Coming across a vehicle hangar, he finds where the technology and size of everything baffles him. After being down in the close confines, the scale of everything here is mesmerizing to him. He notes that everything, quote, every structure and vehicle, every titanic machine and dormant apparatus was built for men scaled to the size of gods. He notices lights out here, which means he is not alone, and he tries to stick to the shadows to great success. I mean, he's very stealthy, but he peers through some wreckage into a space beyond containing a squat starship where people are working to retrieve something from an excavation. He looks closer here and he sees that these men he is perceiving are actually made of metal. They have walkers that strut around on oddly jointed legs and are armed to the teeth with colossal ammo hoppers. These warriors are described as, quote, they bore riders with visors molded into the form of androgyne gods, equipped with pulsing red eyes that scanned the ruins. Do you know what androgyne means?
No.
It's the root word for androgyny or androgynous. So it's like lacking depicted features, just it looks like the form that a god would take. It's kind of like in Elder Scrolls, the dwarven helmets, they look like dwarves, but they're not like depicted. Mm-hmm. They're depicted as looking like something. He really doesn't want them to see him, as he sees there are crimson robed figures that seem to be orchestrating this whole thing, but he doesn't know to what end. As he looks down on all of this, he gets a glimpse of what they are excavating, something described as 9 meters long and cylindrical and tapered at one end, but can't get a better look at it as the dust obscures the area. But he catches a sight of golden thunderbolts on the side of this thing. It triggers a sudden jolt of recall he could not understand. Do you know what this thing is that he's looking at?
I'm assuming it's, so he's obviously looking at the Astartes.
He's looking at this point. No, these aren't described as Astartes. These are described as just humanoid figures in red robes that have metal limbs.
Okay, so that's the Mechanicus.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
Okay, but before, it sounded like he was describing the Astartes when he said
that it
was just men and just...
Well, he didn't see any of them. He saw that everything was the shape of them, but he did not see them. This is before the Astartes would ever have been created this world would have been gone. So I would have assumed it to be the Men of Iron, which are the reason for the downfall of the Dark Age of technology and the era of strife, or the Age of Strife. Basically, abominable intelligence, AI. In Warhammer, it doesn't mean artificial intelligence. It stands for abominable intelligence, because there were metal men that were made to make civilization easier, and instead they tore the fucking galaxy apart. That's the Age of Strife and the Dark Age of technology, kind of in a nutshell. They were the reason that humanity had the downfall, and then humanity started evolving in weird ways, which we'll get to. That's who I would have assumed were on this planet to start with, were the Men of Iron, sent to this planet because they don't need an atmosphere. They don't need oxygen. They don't need anything. You can just come to this planet, set things up, and run it. The original inhabitants of Chthonia, the ones that live there now, they were probably descendants of the people that were there when the planet fell apart during the Age of Strife. And then they just went down in the tunnels. That's just world building that I would assume here. So, just as he gets a better look at one of the red-robed figures, it's described as like half machine, half man. So totally Mechanicus.
Absolutely.
Or some kind of Mechanicus. Like, how before, I won't go too far into it. These are Mechanicus. The Adeptus Terra, with the last ones, they were like the Terran Mechanicus. Anyways, they sneak up on him with a rifle. Nergoe darts out of the way to avoid the shot, but the shot grazes his shoulder as he already has drawn his knife, and the two tumble down into a mass of melee jabs and stabs. Nergoe gets the blade in under the armpit and, quote, churns the handle like a crank. He's like, if the blade... Here, I'll use this, right? If the blade's here, he's got it in the armpit, right? And he's churning it like a crank in there. So it's in this thing. It's up in its like chest and neck, getting churned around. I mean, that would be so painful.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Just like mincing this guy's innards. As he rises from the kill, panting and tired, he notices things are suddenly a little different. He can breathe the air up here completely fine and unobscured. He has 2 heartbeats in his chest that are hammering away. He begins to run back to the tunnels, but turns back to his pursuers to take them with him. He's like, I'm not going to make it. These guys have guns. I've got a shiv. I picked up this guy's weapon, but I don't know how to use it. Totally badass to think about the defiance and willpower it takes to turn with a shiv back towards people with laser guns. But he raises the gun he stole and notices the shot that grazed him is already healed closed.
Interesting.
He's going to fight so hard they have to kill him as he pulls out 2 silver coins, muttering to them that they should place these over his eyes when he's dead. I mean, really courageous, just cool writing here. Just as he feels like he's going to die, though, all the walkers and robed figures lower their weapons, choosing to just turn and walk away. Escaping into the Underdark once more, he brings the weapon back to Kagedon, who admires it, noticing the skull and cog symbol on the cheek plate. So there you go. Kagedon is surprised that Nergoe killed the wielder of such a great weapon, and now they have to accept him. He has earned his kill name. Now we understand that these robed figures were in fact the blue-eyed ghouls they keep talking about. The ghouls up on the surface have always been the Mechanicum. Okay? They haunt the surface from before. This must have meant that the Mechanicus has been on the planet for a while, scavenging what they can without really ever interacting with the inhabitants down here. Kagedon wants to know where Nergoe killed the ghoul and shows him the oil-coated knife. Kagedon notes that he didn't kill a man, just a machine. And now he has brought death down upon all of them as reprisals. Because now that he's killed one of them, they know where he's at. Because this weapon can be tracked. Because it's a Mechanicum weapon. Nergoi doesn't understand as Kagedon starts to mock him, and he says that this kill doesn't count. He can't get his name, as he has not earned anything in their eyes because he is just denying Nergoi. But now Nergoi isn't going to take it anymore. He stands up against Kagedon and squares off with Nyla's dagger. Kagedon tells him now is the time for him to earn it by killing him, telling him to do it as Nergoi rams the dagger home under Kagedon's breastbone and up into his heart.
Mm-hmm.
All of this is happening while the cavern is starting to like shake and come down around them.
Mm-hmm.
Something drills into the space that they're in deep down here. As Kagedon drags Nergoi down to his knees at like dead weight, he whispers something in Nergoi's ear. He says, quote, "I give you a name," to which Nergoi asks, a kill name? And Kagedon whispers into Nergoi's ear one word, a name. Kagedon fades out here, rasping out, quote, "It took me a lifetime to learn how to die," Kagedon says, as he dies, falling down the magma shaft. As he contemplates the things that are happening around him, the boy sees a golden figure ruminating on the breadth of the galaxy atop a soaring tower. And as the figure looks up and smiles into the boy's mind's eye, he calls out 3 words to unlock the boy's potential. It is time.
Mm-hmm.
The power of these words trigger a massive change inside the boy's body. This is where the controversial part comes into this.
Okay.
He begins to alter as he was bred and created to. All of the patchwork on his body, we find out that instead it was gene craft lines. Muscles and features enlarge, bones and sinews swell and fill out, and his flesh takes on this new form. This agonizing rebirth just described as like ripping him apart and remaking him, ferociously so, into the form he was supposed to be. The cave collapses around him and knocks him down as he smiles and falls unconscious. He smiles knowing who he is now as the red robe figures take him back to the surface. Do you know the name I'm about to say who this is?
I think so.
Well, who is it?
I think this is Horus because I believe he was the first one that was found.
Correct.
Okay.
This is Horus. This is Horus's beginning story.
This is a hell of a beginning story for someone.
I know.
It makes being the War Master later on, and
everything that he falls to, it makes it more.
Yeah, before hearing this, it was just, he was just given the title.
Right.
Silver Spoon.
Sure.
That's what it seems like. But
sure.
After hearing origin stories, no, it makes a lot more sense now.
Well, the Emperor wouldn't know this, right?
No, but looking at it from my perspective, not the Emperor's.
Sure.
Because that's what I thought, because I've never, again, this is what this whole series is about. I've never read any of these books, don't know the background.
Of course.
So I've always been told, oh yeah, he's been given the title War Master.
Of course, yeah. No,
Silver Spoon.
Yeah. There is definitely a little bit of Silver Spoonish going on with that. But this is the story of Horus Lupercal and how he becomes Horus. Like he was Nergoi.
Mm-hmm.
And after his kill and being unlocked with the words of the Emperor, he turns from a boy into Horus. This is the part that's super controversial about this story, right? Because no one else this happens to. This seems like a plot device more than anything that doesn't follow the standard lore. So people were upset about that. I also don't like it, but the story's great, right?
The story's great. I see where the controversy comes in, because it doesn't follow the lore of how any of the other Primarchs or Space Marines, in that fact, are made.
Sure. Now, it does follow the fact that he was made. It just, there was he had to unlock it for 3 easy payments of $19.99, and then once he did that,
but that third payment is your height.
Third payment was the biggest one, right? What was it? It's like Mitch Hedberg says, it's like, I don't want 4 really easy payments. I want 2 really hard payments. You know, this is Horus's like
Mhm.
really hard payments of,
Heard.
you know, 599 to
Mhm.
become Horus. And I don't necessarily agree with it. It's still an okay story, you know.
Yeah,
But that was Lupus Daemonis.
that was a really good story.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah, I agree.
I am a bit. It kind of blows me that this is a guy who already has modifications and it's activated by trigger word to just grow. So if he really lost all of his sons, how did he already have the modifications that were going to be what he's going to be?
Yeah, and there's a lot of like, yeah,
That's the only thing that I really have something doesn't add up type
sure,
of thing. Other than that, the rest of the story, amazing, loved it.
sure. Yeah, I agree. I agree. We're actually gonna split this current episode into a two-parter. This is the end of part one. It'll be first 5 short stories part 2 next episode. We'll probably release 2 episodes sort of back to back. So, um, from all of us at Two Orks, One Squig, thank you for coming by, and we'll see you in the next one.
Later.